Hi there, welcome to my channel. We discuss universal laws and how to practice love on a daily basis on this channel. You're very welcome to this office. Now grab your cup of tea, coffee. I've got coffee here today, or a glass of water, whatever you might feel like. And let's start talking about the subject matter for today's video series, which is all about your first few weeks on your first job. Now, the structure of the video series is just like my others. Part 1 is all about us talking a little bit more about the subject matter, the facts behind the topic, as well as the inspiration for it, and the universal laws that are at play when talking about, the first few weeks at your first job. Part 2 will be all about the application of the universal laws and some practical tips as to how we can practice more love in this particular situation. And lastly, part 3 will be the wrap up, some departing thoughts, concluding messages from spirit, oracles, archangels, and ancestors, and anybody else who wants to come in and send through some more messages onto this topic. So let's kick into the part 1, the facts. What's Victoria talking about? Your first weeks at your first job, what? So first of all, congratulations. If you've just landed your first job or you're about to land your first job in your life, congratulations. That's a fantastic achievement in itself, and you're obviously going up a ladder. A career or elements of jobs in your life are all about, I see them as a ladder, stepping stones, and you've obviously made the first step. So congratulations to you. Now, this is your first go at your job. You're about to get paid for what you do. And that's a very lovely feeling, the fact that you're going to be earning income, there's going to be money flow, but at the same time, it's not just about the money, right? During your work, it's a new job, you are going to be learning new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking, you'll be meeting new people at your job, you will be developing skills, things that you have never tried before, you might be using new tools or equipment that is completely out of the blue, or something you perhaps even didn't expect you're going to do or use in your life. So a lot of that will give you a chance at having new experiences, right? And new experiences as a soul, traveling through this lifetime. So there are the phase of your job that I'm talking about, sort of the period of time I'm talking about, is genuinely the first few weeks. It could be first few weeks, maybe first few months, just that really initial stage of your job. And the area, something that you need to be mindful of, I suspect, during this stage is that you're going to be what is known as unconsciously unskilled. That's one of the 4 stages of learning, whereby you go from the first stage, which is you're unconsciously unskilled, i.e. you do not have the relevant skills or competence or knowledge, and you're not aware of it. You're not actually consciously aware of it. So you have no idea. You have this, the flip side, the good side of it is that I'm sure you're feeling a lot of excitement, emotions of, gratitude, and like really you're about to leap into something new and you're gonna have this wonderful journey, you're going on an adventure. So because you are not aware of your lack of skills and competencies, and that's a blissful state to be in. As you progress, as you go up the career ladder or jobs ladder in your life, you then move on from being unconsciously unskilled, and the next stage will be consciously unskilled, because obviously as you have a period of learning and experiences and doing your job and doing your work over a period of time, you will actually become consciously aware. You will understand your lack of skills or lack of competencies or lack of development or training that you currently don't have, but something you will need in order to keep excelling, in order to develop into that next stage of your understanding and learning of whatever it is that you might be doing. But we're talking about that initial phase, right? It's your first few weeks, maybe a month or 2 or so at your first job, and you just have this you're unconsciously unskilled. Now To be aware of it, you need to know that you will have a lot of information overload during those first few weeks. So it's something that you can expect. Why? Because you're going to be learning a lot about the new location, new people, the names of people, where things are at, how things are done, how to even do your job, how do you clock in, how do you inform somebody that you have started. Do you need physical presence, or is your job remote? So how do you go about informing somebody you're there, all the way to, actually doing your job and doing it well, customer service, meeting with customers and clients and how to go about through that process, learning a lot about those experiences and figuring out what you do know, what you're talented at, what your natural gifts are, and what are some things you can get a bit more training on or assistance with. There's something to be aware of is, do you expect to be, because of this information overload and so much innovative new things coming into your life, you can expect to have a little bit of tiredness, physical tiredness, So towards the end of the day or after your day at work, the end of the week, something that I have personally experienced anytime I started a new job is that feeling of a little bit of tiredness and fatigue, because obviously on a mental level, you're acquiring a lot of knowledge, but also on a physical level, it's a completely different lifestyle, because all of a sudden you may have expected hours that you're meant to do, and so that your body takes a little bit of time to actually adjust to that new routine. And just to finish off, the examples I'm talking about here in terms of your first jobs, obviously it's all unique and it depends on where you're at, what's your economic status of your neighborhood, your community where you're working, your stage of life, and so just take this with a grain of salt. But first jobs are typically, retail, sales assistants, people in the food service, fast food restaurants, I did KFC when I was at the end of my schooling, and the first few years of my university I worked at KFC. You might be an office assistant or receptionist, a barista perhaps, you make lovely coffees, you might be tutoring other people because you may have gone through some schooling, you have some special knowledge that you'd like to depart to others. Likewise, you could be a waiter or a waitress, that's a common job. You might be an intern, a delivery driver, or otherwise, a cashier, somebody dealing with money in any one of those places, quite frankly, that I mentioned. Lots of work out there. So that's really, the factual scenario, what we're talking about. Comment down below with like an emoji for number 1, for instance, if you've just landed your first job or you're about to, I'd love to hear from you. And likewise, for those of you who have gone through the experience of getting your first job, and that you've got some tips and tricks to share with others about the first few weeks of a person's first job, because you've been there, you have had that experience, I'd love to hear from you. Comment down below with your tips and tricks, and I'm sure that people who have just scored their first jobs will be very grateful and happy to read through some of the comments, giving them insight and inspiration as to what they could actually do on a practical level in order to help them through this interesting period of time in their life. So what are some of the universal laws that are at play when we're talking about, landing your first job and, going through those first few weeks of that? And the first one that comes to mind is all about, a reminder, I suppose, is to remember that anything that you think, anything that you speak, and anything that you do matters the most. Okay, so what I've just mentioned is the holy trinity of love in my world: thinking love, speaking love, and doing love. And I'm a big believer in a universal law that the most important thing in your life is your own thoughts, your own words, and your own actions, right? Or your own deeds. Not those of others, but your own. And we will talk a little bit about that in part 2, the practical application of that universal law and why it matters more than whatever others might do to you, whether that's or think about you or say about you, whether that's your colleagues at the workplace or the clients, the customers, whoever that might be. Now, the second universal law is something I mentioned in one of my previous videos, which is all about the cycle, and there's a timing pattern to things. Now, I usually give like a 12-week example. That's something that I have observed in my life is like a quarter. Things happen a certain way, whereby effectively, right at the beginning, if you think you're a little bit you're not quite neutral, but you're actually start on a high. You start on emotions of happiness and joy, and real feelings of excitement. That feel good ones. You're inspired. And then as weeks progress, things go up a little bit because of the fact that you're, throwing yourself into something new, you're taking a leap of faith or whatever it might be. But then the reality of the situation or the facts comes into fruition, really the reality, so to speak, hits you in the face. And then towards week 3, week 4, week 5, and things kind of slow down, those original emotions and feelings of excitement and happiness kind of slowly fade away when the reality steps in. And then it is possible that towards a week 5, 6, 7, around that period of time, you might feel a bit of a dip in your terms of your emotions. You might be experiencing more like low frequency things, disinterest, lack of excitement, just not feeling the greatest. But what we're talking about, because we're talking about the first few weeks, you are most likely in the initial phase of the cycle and the pattern that I have observed anyway in my life. And lastly, the third universal law that I would like to delve into is the power of gratitude and appreciation. And we will definitely talk through a few practical tips as to that in part 2. But the power of gratitude and appreciation is, I think, a huge universal law. And it's kind of part of practicing love, right? Is showing your gratitude and appreciation is within the practice of love in my world anyway. Excuse me. And I would love at this point to just show you a lovely card from this energy and spirit oracle, and I'll actually read out the message from it because it might resonate with you, given the fact that you are during this first few weeks of your job, and this might be, this message might be helpful, or the image on this might be actually really helpful. I'll just zoom in for a moment so you can see what it is. So it's number 30. It's called soulful appreciation, right? Because I do believe that when you're experiencing true feelings and emotions of gratitude, it's not just saying hey thanks and you just kind of move on. It's actual true feeling. It's very deep. It's very much stemming from your heart or your chest area. You can actually feel that appreciation, that gratitude, and it's soulful appreciation because it's coming from from your spirit body or your soul, effectively, the true sense of gratitude and thankfulness. And so the message that we've got here from the Energy and Spirit Guidebook is as follows. This card shows scales with a stack of gold coins on one side and a floating butterfly on the other. Yet even though the coins are very heavy, the butterfly tips the scales, representing its far greater value. This card reminds you that there are many forms of value in life. People are quick to appreciate material wealth and just as quick to dismiss the fleeting, unassuming moments of joy. But it's vitally important not to miss these golden opportunities. Gratitude is a strong causal vibration that triggers present joy and radiant future attraction. Grasp every opportunity to be grateful for even the tiniest moments of beauty, love, peace, and happiness that accumulates in your life force energy. This habit of seeking value in the little things is an ongoing energetic choice that draws things of even greater value to your life. And the affirmation is, every day I notice all the little blessings around me. I'm grateful for myself and my life. And we will definitely talk about the practical side of this wonderful energy and power of gratitude and the soulful appreciation on part 2. So I might just pause there and please click down on the link below to move on to part 2 of this video series. See you so shortly.